6 people were arrested and 3 officers injured when hardline protesters stormed the Lechko building early this morning and clashed with police for several hours.
Pro-democracy lawmakers appealed in vain to the attackers to stop the violence, which erupted after a part of Admiralty occupied by protesters was cleared in a peaceful operation. ATV's Arthur Urquiola reports.
The violence erupted at around 1 a.m. when mass protesters grabbed barricades around the Lechko complex and used them to try and smash glass doors after an unsuccessful attempt a little earlier. They also hurled pieces of concrete at the entrance as they tried to barge in. Labour Party lawmaker Fernando Chung tried but failed to persuade the demonstrators to stop. Scores of police armed with shields moved in and used batons and pepper spray in a bid to keep the crowd at bay. But dozens of demonstrators kept charging barricades and tried to block police reinforcements.
Our offices were obstructed by other illegally assembled protesters, and we have to make our way to attend the scene. But in about 10 minutes, we arrived at scene and our officers timely put the situation under control and stopped the mob from charging the electrical building.
When police reinforcements arrived, officers pushed people away from the doors. They also raised banners warning the protesters not to charge. After a tense lull, clashes flared up again at 4:30 a.m. and there were injuries on both sides. The suspects were arrested for criminal damage and assaulting officers, 3 of whom were injured and taken to hospital. The demonstrators had gathered following calls on an online forum and rumors that lawmakers had been set to discuss an amendment to the copyright law, which many felt would curb internet freedom. However, this was not on Lechko's agenda for today. Others involved in the violence appeared to be taking a harder line in the pro-democracy protests that began in late September. They felt that protest leaders have become soft. The hardliners expressed disappointment that protesters were cooperative when bailiffs moved in to clear a site outside Citic Tower in Admiralty yesterday. Speaking later, Chung recalled what happened, saying 2 of those who stormed Lechko had grabbed him and pushed him against a wall, but he wasn't hurt.
Yeah, they said, well, we have already started the action. Let them do it. Let us do it. And I said, don't. And and then one said, Internet Article 23 is going to be passed. We have to stop it. And I said, it's not on the agenda. You guys check the agenda before you do anything.
Occupy Central organizers distanced themselves from the overnight violence, saying it was against the principles of civil disobedience in a campaign which was supposed to be peaceful. Arthur Urquiola, ATV News.
Opposition lawmakers and leading figures behind the pro-democracy protests have condemned the overnight violence, saying it goes against the spirit of their campaign.
Media tycoon Jimmy Lai believes those who broke into Lechko have a hidden agenda, and he suggested that it may be time for activists to pull out of their protest zones. I was at Lechko earlier to listen as Pan-Democrats expressed outrage at the storming of Lechko. In their latest show of unity, 23 of the city's pan-democratic lawmakers condemned radical pro-democracy protesters who battered window panels and stormed the Lechko complex early this morning. But the opposition legislators described the disorder as an isolated incident and said it should not be linked to the demonstrations, which began 53 days ago.
The use of violence is definitely against the umbrella movement's emphasis and spirit of using peaceful, non-violent means to fight for true democracy.
According to the opposition camp, the activists were responding to an online rumor yesterday. They were urged to gather outside Lechko because, according to leaked information, the council would today discuss and approve a pending copyright bill, which will criminalize parodies and reproductions. Referred to as the Internet Article 23 by netizens, Pan-Democrats believe someone could have deliberately spread wrong information about the so-called Internet Article 23 to mislead protesters, as the copyright bill was not even on LegCo's agenda. This is the second time in 5 months that protesters stormed LegCo. The first time was against the plan to redevelop Northeast New Territories. But this time, the attackers were responding to an online call to denounce an internet version of Article 23. The damage behind me is a reminder of what happened early this morning. The Labour Party's Fernando Zheng, who wedged himself between angry protesters and LegCo's walls this morning, said the violence will have an adverse impact on the push for greater democracy.
Does give the government a very good excuse to smear the campaign. It gives the government to erect a wall around LegCo. It gives the government to clear us out in the near future. And yet we may not receive sufficient support from the people to sustain the campaign.
Radical lawmaker Leung Kwok-hung, who also witnessed the overnight chaos, accused the attackers of having fake and ulterior motives, as many fled after breaking the panels. His views were echoed by Albert Chan of People Power.
That is not a proper political action at all. So if they are responsible people, they should come forward to explain the reason for their activities.
Media mogul Jimmy Lai, an outspoken advocate for democracy, went further.
Those people must have a hidden agenda to destroy this movement.
Lai, who was at the Admiralty protest site to show his support, said the unrest could provide food for thought for the demonstrators.
It's about time that we consider whether we should retreat and keep our momentum and the goodwill of the people, especially our willpower, to come back if necessary.
Student leaders behind the mass sit-ins, Alex Chow and Lester Shum of the Federation of Students and Joshua Wong of Scholarism, all said they weren't notified before the protesters stormed LegCo. They didn't know what prompted the action, but admitted that communication between different groups of demonstrators can be improved. Opinions at protest sites varied.
All the thing is run so smooth, but now they just use violence to solve the problems. This is not our purpose here.
Because the government is not willing to show any goodwill, and I think that's why last night happened.
Some protesters believe that the assault in LegCo was the result of growing frustration among people who feel the government isn't listening to their grievances. Pro-establishment lawmakers have also condemned last night's violence and branded the radicals as rioters.
They also urged LegCo President Zhang Yuk-sing to apply for a court injunction to clear the blockade around the building.
In a show of force today, 41 pro-establishment lawmakers gathered to condemn the overnight clashes and attack on the LegCo building. DAB Chairman Tam Yu-chung read out a joint statement criticizing the violent behavior and branded those who took part as rioters. The lawmakers urged pro-democracy protesters to go home, arguing that the civil disobedience movement, which was meant to be peaceful, had instead led to violence.
We condemn those who spread the rumor and those who take actions to attack the building, and also those who has always emphasized on love and peace. What we have seen so far is hatred and violence. You know, this is something that we don't like to see.
Members also sent a joint letter to LegCo President Zhang Yuk-sing, urging him to step up security measures in the building. They said many lawmakers are worried about their personal safety and called on Zhang to apply for a court injunction to clear the blockade outside the LegCo complex.
We asked the president of the council to try to look at what's in front of our building to see whether we can apply for an injunction. It's really quite damaging to the reputation of the council, as well as in case of a fire. What are we going to do? we have to take the safety of all people and visitors.
The pro-government lawmakers expressed hope that the council can resume normal operations soon.